For thousands of years, lethality was strictly bound by the limits of human biology. Projecting force meant investing in years of physical conditioning just to pull back a heavy warbow or swing a longsword effectively. This physical requirement dictated the structure of early empires. Power belonged to the societies that could support and train a permanent class of the strongest, most skilled fighters. That biological constraint was broken by accident. In 9th century China, alchemists attempting to brew an elixir for immortality combined saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. They failed to find eternal life, but they did discover a violent chemical reaction, gunpowder. This mixture was initially used for psychological warfare. Armies strapped it to arrows, created incendiary projectiles, packed it into iron casings, and built crude bombs designed to terrify horses and scatter formations. However, unguided explosions are chaotic. To make this force useful, commanders needed to move beyond noise and fire. They needed to direct that kinetic energy toward a specific point. By bottling the explosion inside a metal tube, humans created a technological shortcut. It provided a way to bypass the need for physical strength, allowing a chemical reaction to do the work that muscles once did. Look at this early fire lance. It is a primitive hand cannon that uses a simple tube to funnel an explosion forward. This is the first practical application of holding raw destruction in a single hand. This device collapsed the old martial hierarchy. A peasant with a few days of instruction could now project more lethal force than a knight who had spent 20 years mastering the spear and shield. When this technology reached Europe, it underwent rapid mechanical refinement. Blacksmiths used their experience casting bells to forge heavier, reinforced metal barrels capable of handling larger amounts of gunpowder without exploding. These advancements scaled the technology into massive siege artillery. Cannons could now batter down stone walls that had been thought invincible for centuries, making traditional castle defenses a liability rather than a sanctuary. Personal defenses fared no better. High-velocity lead balls could penetrate the heavy steel plate armor that had previously made the elite warrior class nearly untouchable on the battlefield. As the effectiveness of armor and physical walls decayed, the measure of military power began to shift toward the technical proficiency of a nation's engineers and weaponsmiths. The Industrial Revolution applied the logic of the steam engine to the production of firearms, moving the weapon out of the artisan's workshop and into the factory. This photograph captures the scale of that transition. By mass-producing rifles on an assembly line, factories turned the firearm into an omnipresent commodity, available in quantities that were previously impossible to achieve. This volume created a new kind of war. Battles were increasingly decided by a nation's total manufacturing output and the efficiency of its supply chains, rather than individual acts of bravery. Industrialization completed the democratization of force, turning the application of violence into a repeatable, mechanical process that could be scaled to include entire populations. The 20th century provided the most extreme evidence of this mechanical power. The two world wars saw industrial nations use these tools to inflict destruction at a pace that biology could not possibly sustain. This same accessibility eventually moved the firearm into the center of civilian life. Because it allows one person to exert absolute force, the gun became a potent symbol of personal autonomy and individual identity. We can see the current tension of this history in these protest signs. They reflect a modern struggle between the desire for personal protection and the collective risks posed by the widespread distribution of lethal power. By decoupling force from human strength, the firearm permanently changed how humans interact with power. Modern society is now left to debate how to safely manage the democratization of that absolute force.